So I did my leak down test. All the cylinders passed except for 6. There is a leak. When I put my arm in here and I open the main butterfly on the throttle body, I feel wind, so one of my valves is not seating correctly, which means it's probably bent. So now you guys get to watch me do a head gasket and take off the heads and all that fun stuff. So everything I did already, putting the intake manifold on, all that has to come off again. So okay, so I lucked out, and even though when I took off the intake manifold the first time I'd shoved shop towels in all of these intakes, some crud had still managed to get in here, and it was keeping the valves on the intake from seating properly. So we put a little bit of oil in there, and well, first I tried to blow it out with air. Then we put a little bit of oil in there. I filled the cylinder with air, so I had compressed air in there, and then a screwdriver was used on the rocker for each valve to hit it down, and they were hit down abruptly, and then the spring and the air pressure seated them back up correctly, and all of the crap started coming out. It might have just been carbon or what, it looked like a little bit of debris, but it came out, and they eventually started seating properly the more we did it, and now it is holding air. So the leak down test is working. I'm going to test all of them again just to be sure, throw the intake manifold back on, and then I can start putting this back together. Now, when I had taken off the intake manifold before to figure out why the valves weren't seating, and I put oil in there, it did allow me to put oil in there. However, if I was going to do it again, this time I would pressurize the cylinder like I did without taking off the manifold, and then just putting the screwdriver right on top of the adjusting screw there and hitting it down to make the valve open and seat again. And that may have alleviated the issue without having to take off the intake manifold and the use of oil. And I may have been able to have it seat properly there. It may just be carbon buildup. I don't know, but either way, everything's good now, so that's a relief. So, valve cover time. You'll want to put a little bit of Honda Bond on the inside and the outside of this seal, just a light amount, everywhere where it's going to hit and the surface is going to mate on the head. Also, when you do your spark plugs, make sure you torque them down to 13 foot-pounds. I had a friend, one of his loosened up and shot out of the motor and took the threads with it, and he had to get a time cert or helicoil installed. So yeah, 13 foot-pounds for the spark plugs. The coil packs are labeled front and rear. I'm not sure exactly what the difference is and why they label them, but whatever. So I got all the covers back on, and alternator bracket, and this tensioner here for the AC. This is the part number for the AC belt. AC belt gets routed like that. This tensioner bolt gets torqued to 36 foot-pounds. This is the part number for the alternator belt. The tensioner bolt is 36 foot-pounds. The alternator bolt here is 33 foot-pounds, and this one is also 33 foot-pounds. Alright, so now that everything's back together, I jacked it up, putting my dust cover back on for the flywheel cover. I had to take that off to get the oil pan up. Then I checked all my mounts, the transmission mounts here, and those are all torqued to 43 foot-pounds, I believe. Next step is I'm going to put the intermediate shaft in. It's a little bit, have it raised up a little bit, makes it a little easier. And then I believe I drop it into the cradle. Everything else I could do on the cradle. I may even be able to do the intermediate shaft on the cradle. I think I can. But it probably is easier with it out. So I remember this intermediate shaft was hard to get out. So I sprayed a little bit of that dry lubricant stuff that's like graphite. I don't know what it is, I forget, but it's not graphite. I sprayed it down there. And then this thing doesn't like to come apart. I remember that as well. And it's hard to get back in. You have to like orient it perfectly, and I can't seem to. So what I'm doing is just taking a screwdriver and wedging it in between here all the way around and separating this so that I can polish up this part in there and spray some lubricant on it so the next time I have to take it apart, it'll be a little easier. After I put the intermediate shaft on, I believe the bracket for it is 36 pounds. I think. I want to double check in the book, I forget. But these that hold it on right there, those 3 bolts, 1, 2 back there, and the third, those are 16 pounds. Then I put on this bracket here. Next I put the heat shield over the intermediate shaft, and I put the exhaust back on, well, downpipe. So I made a mistake with this rear transmission mount. I put it on the transmission first, and then I realized I couldn't drop it into the subframe. I had a feeling when I was doing that this was going to be an issue, but I thought I'd be able to tilt the engine, but by myself here. If I had another person, I could, but with me lowering it, I can't be over here at the same time to twist the engine to drop that in first. So if you're by yourself, put the rear transmission mount on the cradle first,